Okay, thanks Antonia for having me here again. So I'm giving you today a long-term follow-up of an observational case study of a patient that is somehow special because this patient is not a pregnant woman or a baby with a problem. It is actually this group of institutions and myself, and I'm observing myself as a patient, and I give you an update about what happened to me in these institutions over the last 2 years, and then I make some predictions what is going to happen next. Okay, and the patient suffers from regulations and trying to stay alive in these evolving European regulations called MDR. And this is not going to be very detailed signal analysis, but I think it has a big impact on somehow bringing innovations in a sustained way into the European market or broader market. Okay, so as a reminder, I will start somehow with the last slides from Sardinia. I know some people are going to be bored because they've seen it. So there I said, well, this patient, myself, in these groups, we are kind of pro-European to a certain extent, but worried and skeptical if this is all going really in the right direction. Well, we are collaborating with the people who are educated experts in this field of regulatory science. So there's a group in Dresden, for example. It's their scientific field. I am their patient, and I'm now doing a self-report what's happening to people who dare to make spin-offs out of universities, have spin-off companies, have spin-off research centers, and this is the overview I'm going to give you. Okay, so that was one of those papers that we've done together with the people from Dresden, where we somehow explain the risks of over-regulation, under-regulation, and the need for having a good evidence to make the right regulatory decisions, because at the end, the guys who made the laws want to have safe and effective medical devices on the European market. Okay, now my final slide was then a slide that I had introduced when I started the talk by saying, look into my eyes. Yeah, I'm a bit pro-European, but I'm worried. And remember this, look into my eyes when I come to my last slide. And that somehow was the last slide. And this was my summary. Yeah? After all those years of research and development and founding companies and so on and so forth, I was sitting in a pot and I was about to die. I described the patient. And when I gave the talk in Sardinia, I did not know if I was going to survive. Yeah? So I was just hoping, that was my hope, I can reach somehow this part over there to lower the temperature, to stay alive, because at that stage, although we had spent a lot of money and time, we've not been able to get the MDR for our product. Yeah? And now the short summary is, as you see here, I survived, yeah, but there have been a couple of dramatic things in between, and this is somehow what I'm going to describe now. Okay, so one part is, I mean, there are these fairy tales where people, I don't know the details, where people kiss each other and then there are frogs turn into princes or something. So what has happened here, I used to be the only managing director of this company, Trium, that is, among other things, producing software as a medical device for central surveillance in obstetrics. And now, since March or April, I happen to have 2 more managing directors, and I have a family office from Munich that is giving the needed financial long-term support and powerful decision-making to not only get the MDR, but also to remain to keep it and being able to fulfill the requirements if you keep this product on the market. So to me, this is, I mean, I had given up, to be honest. Yeah? I was not expecting to be here in February or something. So that was a complete game changer. And I'm a very happy person now. So the patient currently is happy. Yeah? And now I can show you what is somehow the status and the plans. I promise I talk a little bit about algorithms, analysis, and software, but always with the idea these things must reside in these complex structures in order to really give decision support in the clinics 24/7 in all these hospitals, and that needs a considerable amount of infrastructure that goes beyond somehow the algorithms. So this is somehow the overview of what we've been doing or we plan to do. So the gray part, that's the part that led to the MDR, that we have now an MDR approval until 29. Then we realized, well, in order to move forward and to have a stable long-term software and development platform, we need to go through this prism, do a couple of things, reprogram and refresh and whatnot. And this allows us then to spit out all these colorful bubbles that are not yet MDR approved, but that's somehow the plan. So we talk about CDG analysis on demand. The CDG data hub is a topic for somehow a not-for-profit organization. Then we talk about this on Saturday. Then CDG analysis training. These are things we are involved with the university in Ulm. They do a spectacular training program in Germany. We are interested, as you know, in CDG remote monitoring and then this new platform which is called CDG Online Prism. Now, the current version where we have managed to get the MDR is version 3.0. Well, these probably looks all very familiar. These displays, etc. But there are a couple of interesting highlights that were triggered through the MDR. The FIGO alarm system or decision support system is from now on mandatory, because only by using arguments that linked the automatic analysis to predicting fetal outcome, that was the basis then for the notified bodies to accept that not just that we have a very, very safe product, which is the first condition, but that we can show clinical benefit and that the benefits outweigh the risks. And without FIGO, this is not possible. And therefore, as an unexpected change, this is now not an option, this is mandatory. Yeah? And we also introduced in this new version 3.0 a license to access raw data to allow researchers to really access all these interesting data for their own research, but also for their research in the sense that they put it into data pools. And I have to say, Antonia, the very impressive talk with these numbers and with these validations. So that's the future. Yeah. Okay, and then, well, I mean, as you know, well, this is kind of an old patient already. So this whole thing started in 1997 with some patent applications, etc. And now in 2026, after several near-death experiences, now a game changer that we can now. The prediction is this is not going to end. This is has a long will have a long history. Now, one thing, and I have to say, I'm embarrassed about this. Because in previous talks, I mentioned, well, we are the researchers and we have a big interest in data analysis and validation, etc. And we have a partner who is doing the sales and the marketing and stuff. And, well, this is GE Healthcare. And I also knew the numbers. Now, if you look at the numbers, so we have in Germany, I think 230 clinics are using the system. In worldwide, more than 500 installations. We have 22 million recordings. There was not a single serious event that led to harm. And we have market authorization in 21 countries. So that reads all very well. But if you now think about what this means in the context of MDR, if your financial resources are unstable, which was the case, then you realize that by law, you are responsible for all these clinics. You cannot say, if you're sitting in this pot, now I go out of the pot. You sit in the pot, and the only reason to get rid of the obligations you have, if you have these 500 clinics using this 24/7 as a critical infrastructure, is that you have to dissolve the company. Yeah? Only if the company has disappeared, either bankrupt or wound down, the obligations are gone. Yeah? And when I made these various decisions, I was not aware of this, yeah? And I would not have dared to make the various decisions. I've done it, and now we are an independent company that has this installed base and has now since March somehow the capacity to actually also deliver on the further development. Okay. Now, the analysis, just a snapshot, what analysis means if you do this in the context of MDR. So we have hundreds of pages documentation about every single tiny piece of our algorithm package that has grown over these 20 years. with all the validations, with all the papers that are associated with it. We also have a reprogramming going on because we anticipate that lots of little changes will happen in the future to the algorithms that usually are a nightmare. And with the new agile platform that we are planning to be available for the MDR context, this allows rapid updates and changes that you can, if you have your internal validation, implement as a software update, which means innovations that you can validate can quickly go into the clinical practice. And all this stuff needs to be audit-proof. The auditors will look into these things, and they will look into these things if you say you have artificial intelligence very, very thoroughly, because many of them, they do not know the details, and this is a very interesting topic on its own. Okay, now the MDR part, I mentioned this already. So here is it. So that was the thing I was proud of, to say, well, the temperature in the pot has gone down. Yeah, I have it. Until soon after I realized, no, I have it. And if I want to get out, I can. Yeah. Well, there are publications about, well, how well was the MDR implementation planned. It was a disaster. Many companies, German companies, European companies, are bankrupt or have decided not to touch the European market. And so therefore, as we have survived it now, I see a certain obligation now to continue. And we've been, I should also say this, been interviewed as a patient, triggered by the European Union, because they knew this was a mess and they wanted to get empirical data from institutions, companies. How did they suffer through this MDR process? They collected this information, it went to Brussels, and they came up now with revisions. So in that sense, I have to say that the European machinery is a bit slow, but it has been working, and our experience has made it into some changes already of the way the MDR works. Okay, now as Martin is standing, I think I have 30 seconds. Or, yeah, okay, that's good. Because then I concentrate on the most important part, which is the CTG data hub. Yes, and therefore it's short, yeah, because I can just say that's the preparatory stuff for what you will hear on Saturday. And a large part of this stuff has to do with our link to some universities, in particular Ulm, where you see the CTG expert. And now we save time because that was my way to introduce the next speaker. And I'd like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Martin. I have the memory of the frog, but everything was super important and exciting to see. Congratulations. Okay. This is a big deal. While the next speaker is setting up, a question or two maybe from the audience. If there is no one with a question, maybe while the setup is done, I do have one. If there is one thing you would share with all those here who are also working towards application that will see the patient, what is the key lesson for the frog that made it out that you would like to impart on us?
Sorry, I didn't get
What is the key lesson that you would like to share, how to survive
the key lesson, don't follow my example. It was really pure luck. It was very, very risky. I mean, some organizations here have behaved very recklessly, yeah? Because if we talk to hospitals, what would happen if we go bust, if we disappear? They say, this cannot happen. No way. I mean, we are completely depending 24/7 on systems like this. We cannot do high-quality obstetrics care without these systems. And it's strange that if you have this kind of critical infrastructure of this size, that you have difficulty somehow to find the resources to keep this up and running. So that's my lesson. And I was lucky. I mean, I was really very lucky. And one should not give up to the very last moment. Yeah? And so that's my lesson. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much again.